Hello and welcome back to another episode of Excel Statistics. Today we will be talking about the normal distribution. Many of you might be familiar with the normal distribution. It is often referred to as the bell curve, which you can see displayed here. Notice one difference you see from the binomial and the Poisson distribution we have previously worked with is that the normal curve is a continuous distribution. What that means is that we can in fact have any value on the number line, so we can have decimal values and smaller fractions. So any particular value does have an option of having a probability. There are two things we need to know in order to calculate the normalization. That is the mean, this x bar right here in the middle. So this is the center of our distribution. And then our standard deviation, this little sigma symbol, so we have plus and minus one standard deviation, two standard deviations, and three. So if we go ahead and put over here, let's look at a normal distribution with a mean of 50 and a standard deviation of 25. We have those values. Let's look at this x bar plus 1 sigma, so one standard deviation. So let's look at the probability that we are less than or equal to 75. And similar to what we did with our others, we will be looking at our norm.dist formula. Notice there's quite a few in here that we can do. We can do first our distribution with norm.s is the standard normal. The standard normal is the one you would be familiar with as the bell curve, and that is a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. So it always has those fixed values. You can do that still with the norm.dist just by putting in a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1 and get these same answers. And so I find it a little more flexible to just use this all the time. So let's open up our insert function window. We see again up here next to our formula bar. And so we've got our x value. So I'm going to put in 75. That's the number we just mentioned. Our mean here is our 50. I will lock that with our F4 key. Our standard deviation is our 25 value, and I'll lock that with our F4 key as well. Now for the normal distribution here, because we can technically have any value on there, the probability mass function, the probability of a single value is really not a very meaningful number. So we're going to choose to always look at the cumulative distribution, which is the less than or equal to value. So our cumulative we are always going to put in true. All right, so we get a probability here of 0.84. What this really is this entire area here from this x bar plus 1 sigma. It's this area underneath the curve. So think of this filled in and shaded in all the way over to infinitely small over here on the left. That's just this area under the curve, and if you were to fill in or add up the total area under the entire curve, you would get a value of 1, obviously. Next, let's look at the probability that we are greater than 75. So in this case, we are looking for the area under the curve to the right of this line. And again, since we know that the total value under the curve is 1, if we take our total value minus our area to the left, what we're left with is right. So that gives us a probability of 0.6. If we continue on and we look at the probability of being less than or equal to 25, which would be this next line over to the side to the left of our mean, and we're going to look at all the areas shaded underneath this curve to the left. So I'm going to copy our previous one, paste that down here, and simply change my x value from 75 to 25 in order to get my new number. And 0.15 or 0.16 would be our value. And because we have a normal distribution that is not skewed, it is perfectly centered, the value on this side or that side are going to be exactly equal. The final one we're going to look at is the probability of being between 25 and 75. So if we want to look between 25 and 75, We simply have to take our value of 75. We get this entire area here and all the way over here. And then if we subtract off this other piece below 25 that we no longer want, it's going to leave us with the portion in the middle. So we can take our probability being less than or equal to 75 and subtract from that the probability of being less than or equal to 25, and that will give us our final answer of 0.68 is our probability. So between plus and minus one standard deviation of our mean, we will find 68% of our possible outcomes. And that's really all there is to the normal distribution. I hope you found this video useful, and we will talk to you again in the future.